The topic I chose to discuss and write about um, in research was discrimination in the United States. I chose this topic because people don't realize how big of a variety discrimination really is. There's more than just racism because everybody thinks that just discrimination is just racism all the time, or the competition that men and women are better than others, and the pay, everything. There's more than just that in discrimination. And that's why I feel that people need to be further educated on this topic. And that is why I chose myself to gain more knowledge in this topic, because even when I was thinking about it, I would think about uh, the discrimination between men and women or racism. I never thought of all the other possibilities that there could have been. Some background on discrimination. As we all know, it's been around for a very, very long time here in the United States. And slavery was actually a really, really huge part of it. Um, but there's more than just that. Like I said earlier, there's more than racism. It's the judgment of people to people. If you're different, there's somebody probably judging you. Not to scare anybody, but yes, there probably is somebody judging you. Like, they may have a different color hair, or their clothes aren't the best. Somebody probably is talking about it. They're making remarks about it. They're discussing it with somebody else, being discriminatory. I mean, there's no real way to identify that people are being discriminate against others unless they're making obvious signals and sharing with other people that come back and tell others about it. But again, discrimination includes color, race, political views, sexual orientation, and so much more. And like I said, that's something that we have to discuss and we have to further our education on so that we can help discrimination end. Although that may never happen, it's still a step in the right direction. As many people think, African Americans face more discrimination than anybody. It's actually false. It is unfortunate, but Muslims actually face more discrimination than other races, although blacks are right behind them. Muslims still face the most. Um, they don't go unnoticed. They're easy to spot out. Not in a bad way, but they are easy to spot out. Uh, and then also in schools, I found in my research that Africans actually seem to end up in juvenile or court systems due to their color, which actually sounds pretty accurate to me. There is a lot of people that are racist against African Americans, unfortunately. Another thing that I wanted to research was the age that this happens more to. Really, at any age, you can face discrimination. Uh, but I found that I realized in high school is where you figure out who you are, you figure out what group you belong to, and who your real friends are. Um, and there's groups like the LGB groups, that stands for the lesbian, gay, bisexual groups, that a lot of people do notice, because they either don't like it or it's interesting to them, um, those types of things. Another thing that I decided was a really big topic to focus on was effects of discrimination, because it can affect somebody so much that it's so important to talk about. Like, it can cause mental and physical health issues, not just mental. Discrimination can cause depression in people, which can lead to illnesses. Um, and then when people actually feel depressed, all kinds of things can happen to them mentally and physically. If you really think about it, the things you've heard about depression, it can cause somebody to want to be alone all the time with nobody around in a dark room. And that's when they start to either lose weight or gain weight, um, depending on who it is, what gender. Typically, girls can go either way. Um, but then again, it's still something to consider when seeing discrimination or hearing about it, trying to put an end to it. uh, Another thing that I thought I should research is the long term effects of discrimination, which then actually changed my mind because, kind of in a way, a convicted felon is going to be discriminated against because of their criminal history that they've gone through. Um, once convicted a criminal, you're going to face discrimination throughout your entire life, especially when trying to find a job. Trying to find a job once you've been in jail or prison is so much more harder. It's so much harder than a person who hasn't been. It's it's trying to prove that you're not that person anymore. And it's hard for employers to believe that you're not going to do something that's going to affect their business in a way that they don't want it to. And finally, what I have concluded, as everyone knows more than likely, is that discrimination will always be around. It's not going anywhere. Racism especially is always going to be there. It's come from long time ago and it's still here. It's especially not going somewhere. We're still going to have blacks, we're going to have Muslims, we're going to have Asians, we're going to have Latinos. It's those people exist. And that's what happens or what makes racism. The different colors. But again, that's not the only thing. Like the LGBT groups, those are going to be around for a long time, especially when marriages are being allowed. And then it can hurt people. As we discussed, it causes depression and stress that can lead to illnesses that put somebody in bed for a long time or away from people, wanting to be alone. And then finally, it can ruin lives, which then leads me back to the depression and the stress and the illness that puts somebody in bed. They're not going to want to get up. They're not going to go to work. They're not going to want to go out with friends. They're going to lose people unless somebody steps up and changes that for them. Overall, this topic has taught me more than I would have learned on my own. I mean, the mental and physical illnesses, I wouldn't have never known that. I wouldn't know what age people started realizing that discrimination is happening. I wouldn't realize that Muslims are facing more discrimination than African Americans. I automatically assume African Americans are facing more discrimination than everybody. But I was wrong. And unfortunately, the part of the criminal convictions, that's something that really can't be fixed. The only thing that can be done with that is proving yourself to people. The person who has done it has to prove to the others that they're not going to do this crime again. They're not the same person. But that is why I chose discrimination overall, and I wouldn't choose it any other way.